Hey everyone, Noah here, and in this video we are going to talk TMC basics. We'll start off with the file structure of TMC, move on to an overview of the control center, talk application type, configurations, vessel settings, and we will also touch on acquisition and a couple other modules available to us in TMC. So follow along guys, I hope you enjoy and have some fun learning today. All right, let's start out with the file structure of TMC. So by default, TMC projects are stored in your C drive, users, public documents, and finally TMC projects. Now that file path is configurable, and I will show you that in just a second here. But for now, let's open up that file structure and take a look at it. We'll go ahead and open up this shortcut. Drag it over here, and you can see in the TMC projects folder, we have a project folder here, and we have this project common files folder. The project folders contain all of the data relevant to a specific project, where the project's common files folder houses all of the data that any project can use. Think like shape files and vertical datums and whatnot. That goes in your project commons file folder. If we open up a project folder here, we can see we have a couple other folders in here that houses some data, also all of our files, and now all this stuff can also be seen in TMC's File Explorer view as well. We'll go ahead and launch TMC, and we can show you how to change that file path here. So file in the top left, and select project path. By clicking that, we can quickly change where we want to look for our project folders. I recommend leaving this at default on machine computers. On your computer, you can go ahead and put it wherever it's convenient for you. Now let's talk about the control center. So what you're seeing here is the control center. From here, we can load all of our project data. We can view all of our project data, and we can launch other modules available to us, as well as access our project and configuration settings. Let's start out with the file pane over here on the left. We have some tabs across the top, and we'll start off left to right here. Project list. By clicking on that, we can see all of the projects that we have in our TMC, and we can use this black dot here to toggle between the projects. Then we can jump over to the project tab. In here, you're going to find folders for your 3D models, color tables, grid models, waypoints, run lines, basically all the data that you're going to need to run a TMC project. We can expand these folders here, and we can use the checkboxes next to each file to display it in the main view here. And you can see I checked it, and we are not seeing it show up in the map. So if we right click on that and hit the go to button, it will snap the camera to that file. We'll go ahead and expand our grid models, and we'll check a grid model as well to bring that in. You can toggle things on and off here, and do note that if they are checked on here, they will be shown in your project layers when you do launch acquisition later on. We can go over to our charts tab here. That is where we are going to put in background maps. Marine nautical charts, S57 charts, anything along those lines there, as well as our line work is going to go in the DXF area here, and we can toggle on some line work to display in the control center view screen here. Then on the geoid model, that is where we can put geoids and other vertical datums. You'll notice there's a button here to edit the coordinate system. If you go ahead and click on that, it'll launch your coordinate system edit screen, and you have the option to apply that geoid to the project here. In the bottom left corner, you can pick your geoid type. We have a GGF, the Trimble Geoid Grid file, and then hit the select button here. It will launch up a file explorer, and you can choose your geoid file. Make sure you are in your project's common file folder. If you select that geoid from anywhere else, you will get a warning. Go ahead and load that in and hit OK. And we can move on to log files here. This is where all of our log files are kept. If we expand this, we'll see a folder for PDF log data. These PDF log data files are pretty large, but they do record everything that your machine or vessel is doing and makes it available to you to replay ever if needed in the future. All right, so we will jump back to our project tab here, and we'll uncheck what we got going on in the view screen for now. And now we will move on to the configuration settings here. By clicking on the gear, it is going to launch the configuration settings. Up in the top corner, we can see our application type. Now, changing our application type will determine things in our project like available vessel settings, available displays, and some other things. So it's a good practice to keep this on the most relevant application for you. We're going to leave it on the multi-purpose acquisition for our simulator, and then we can see our available configurations here or create a new one. A configuration determines how an application type is carried out. So we can have one or more vessels in this configuration. We can add layouts if we have multiple monitors or remote computers, events for some condition-based data logging, and alarms for the entire configuration. And now we'll come back to the vessels tab here. We have the option to add or edit vessels on the side here, locally or remotely. By double clicking on either one of these or hitting the edit button, it will launch the vessel settings screen here. We'll start off in the geometry tab. You can program in things like offsets for your GNSS receivers or anything else. You can set your visualization settings for the body of your excavator, crane, cutter, boat, whatever you have from over here. Then we can go to our equipment tab, and this is where we configure all the sensors that we have on the machine, the GNSS receivers, the linkage sensors, multi-beam, and so on. In the groups here, we have a bunch of groups of drivers. By clicking on a group of drivers here, it will display all of the available drivers for us. And we're going to add one here for our simulated GNSS receiver, which is the Trimble PTNL GGK driver. Add that over here, and it pops up and it shows us what port are we trying to look for data on. Now we're not looking on COM1, so we want to go to configure IO port at the bottom here, and then we will navigate down to that SIM 6001 that we have data coming in on for our simulator. And then you can device test that driver to see if we're getting all the data we need. Green check marks are good, guys. Red X's are bad. Additionally, you can either double click or hit the edit params button, and it will display all the available settings for that driver. On the computations, computations take raw data and process it to spit out some usable data for us. By default, TMC has all of these computations in a vessel. If you wanted to add a user computation, you can do so by clicking this advanced button, and you can see there is a long list of computations available for us. Now, things like guidance, tools, logging, alarms, I like to set those up in acquisition itself, as I feel it's a little bit easier. We'll go on to events as well here, and events we will touch on in future videos, but basically you can set up a bunch of data points that you want to log based on some conditions, and it will log that to a usable file format for you. Another tab in here is aliases. Now, you'll notice that this list here is identical to the equipment list. Now, these names of the drivers can be confusing, so if you choose, you can go to aliases and rename these to something that makes more sense. For example, this positioning system geogs is our GNSS receiver, so we will change that down here. And now everything in the project will refer to that driver as the GNSS receiver. All right, guys, that is a good overview of the vessel settings here. We definitely are going to touch harder on vessel settings in future videos. But for now, we're just giving you an overview. And we'll go on into acquisition here. So this green play button that says start real time is how you launch acquisition. Now acquisition is where you're going to do your work and collect all your data. Now from an operational standpoint here, once the project has been configured, all you really need to worry about in here is that data logging is turned on. And we can see down here in the bottom right, there is a green log button. Now you can toggle that by clicking on the button itself, or from the logging settings up here, you can toggle the enable data logging. Red won't log, green will log. And when I'm talking about logging, I am talking about not only your PDF log data files that we touched on earlier, but also your grid model. With logging off, we boom this excavator into the material here and nothing changes. Now, if we turn that data logging back on, now we plunge that bucket down in there and it's going to take away that material and update our surface in real time. And that's about it in here for now, guys. We're going to close this out and go back into the control center. Now from control center here, we can also launch a couple other modules, including the guidance editor module and the grid model editor. I do have another video that goes into more detail on the grid model editor, and there will be one for the guidance editor coming soon. Well guys, that's a good quick overview of the basics of TMC here. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. As always, TMC is a very powerful software tool. Lots of ways to do the same thing. So drop some comments below. Let me know your thoughts, how you do things, and what you want to see moving forward. Thanks guys, and have fun.